Last season, I compared Vex Mythoclast to a generic 360 RPM auto rifle, False Promises. The results were that Vex Mythoclast was more or less equal to False Promises, a drop that you can find just about anywhere. And its linear fusion mode was fine, considering that it got to use primary ammo. It's a jack-of-all-trades weapon, so the trade-off is that you deal less damage to have that versatility. But when we've had raid exotics be some of the best weapons in the game at certain points in time, Legend of Acreus was a DPS monster in certain situations, 1K has always had some notoriety to it and is now a beast because of Season of the Lost's seasonal artifact mod. Anarchy was the game's best weapon for many seasons, potentially eclipsing the power of Gallarhorn in terms of strength. Divinity has always been a great gun utility-wise, and even Eyes of Tomorrow is a nightmare to fight against in Gambit. When we've had raid exotics be so good, it was a shame that Vex Mythoclast, the franchise's first exotic raid weapon that launched as one of the most dominant weapons the game has ever seen, had been reduced to a 3% upgrade over a legendary world drop auto rifle. Now, I don't think we really need to talk that much about Vex Mythoclast at this particular moment in time. In case you have no idea what's going on, Vex Mythoclast received one of the most substantial buffs of recent memory. 40% PvE damage boost, better range than 360 RPM auto rifles, increased stability, the catalyst gives stability and a 20% damage boost after a kill, the rate of fire was increased by 10%, the linear fusion charge speed was cut by 0.3 of a second, which is an eternity in fusion rifle speed, and it no longer loses its overcharged stacks anymore when you swap weapons, unless you're in linear mode, which was more of a fix than a buff. So where does that really put Vex Mythoclast now? Well, in PvE, it's now one of the highest damage dealing primary weapons in the entire game. According to the folk over at Damage Chart Madness, aka this Google sheet that gets updated with damage values every patch or every season, whenever it is, which is an amazing resource, there are only a few things beating Vex Mythoclast now when it comes to primary damage. Those things are a fully ramped up Huckleberry, a Ravenous Beast Taraba, which is the highest primary weapon DPS possible to probably the surprise of no one, Rat King with 5 other people using Rat King, a laser mode Devil's Ruin, which I don't think I should really include in here because it doesn't really fit the mold of a typical primary, Outbreak Perfected with a bunch of nanites, Cerberus +1 hitting every bullet in every shot, and Hawkmoon assuming you're hitting max crits. So, all those other guns, they have some sort of strict conditions that you need to hit to get to those really high damage values. Vex Mythoclast, on the other hand, yeah, you just have to shoot it. No strings attached, no nothing, you just shoot the gun. And now you're using one of the best primary weapons in the game. Now tack on another 20% damage with the Catalyst active, which is active after 1 kill. Congratulations, you're now ahead of a perfect Cerberus +1 and an almost maxed out Huckleberry for a short time. Now tack on another 40% on top of that because of particle deconstruction for the next 6 months, which takes 0 effort to stack to 5. Congratulations, you've now toppled Devil's Ruin's Laser, you're right next to a maximum nanite Outbreak Perfected and a full Rat King team, and you're crushing Hawkmoon. And all you're doing, let me reiterate, all you're doing is shooting the gun. You're not even doing anything special. The only condition you need to hit is that you need to hit a target with your shots. That's it. I feel like we all know that the gun is stupidly good, but when put into that kind of context, dude. Oh, also, it can be modded with Unstoppable in Season of the Lost. Oh, its linear fusion mode is now basically as good as a linear fusion that uses heavy ammo. And the only reason this isn't going to be locked to every single loadout on every single person who has the gun is because of Overload Bow and the fact that all of the exotic bows are also insanely good and fun to use weapons in endgame Nightfall content. There have been a very few amount of weapons that people have used in GMs and Masters that did not have the element nor the anti-champion capabilities needed for said GM, and those weapons are Ariana's Vow and Anarchy. Mythoclast might be on that list by the end of the season. In PvP, I don't even know what you do about this gun. The damage is completely unchanged. Nothing happened with the damage. And it still went from, yeah, you know, it's not too shabby, I like it, to, oh my god, how? The range and stability boosts are wildly noticeable to the point where it's like, what do you even do to fight against this thing? It is unbelievably effective at such long ranges, and its already pretty good linear fusion mode was given a faster charge speed. You might as well get 3 heavy ammo shots after getting 2 kills in a row with Mythoclast, because that's exactly what happens. Like, dude, what do you even do against a Mythoclast? You just have to hope that your opponent misses, because if they're within range, you're not going to have a good time. And guess what? Even if they're not dealing max damage per shot, you're still probably not going to have a good time. Of course, it's completely possible to be outgunned by other weapons, which is why I think there's been some pushback from the please literally never nerf anything because what is sandbox and game balance anyway crowd. But man, it's borderline. It cannot be fun to be on the receiving end of Mythoclast. So the question isn't how good is Vex Mythoclast, because we already know the answer. The question is actually, is Bungie going to nerf this? The better question is, when and how is Bungie going to nerf this? Here's what I think. First off, I don't think Bungie is going to touch particle deconstruction. I feel like Bungie has been pretty hands-off with these seasonal mods unless they're really, really broken in a really bad way, because they're supposed to change the meta season over season. They're supposed to shake things up, get people to use different things, and I don't think they really care if a weapon type that has never had any time in the spotlight since the start of the franchise gets to be in it for 6 months. It also affects every other fusion in the game, and it would be dumb to nerf it just for Mythoclast. I don't think Bungie is going to touch the Catalyst. I don't think the Catalyst is really a game breaker. 20% damage on a damage perk is slightly higher than average, but it's a raid exotic Catalyst. Frenzy is 15%, so I don't think a 5% difference is that big of a deal. It's Rampage plus for 1 stack. That leaves the base gun, the boosted RPM, the boosted damage, the boosted range, the boosted stability. Oh my god. When I list them all out like that, it's just, oh my god, they boosted almost everything possible. But even still, let's bring back false promises into here. Impact's the same, range is basically the same, Mythoclast has the edge on everything else. But is that such a bad thing for a raid exotic? You know, shouldn't it be expected that a raid exotic is going to have better performance than a random drop? I think it should, even if VOG isn't something that I would consider hyper difficult content. I personally feel like Bungie is gonna let Vex Mythoclast ride out in PvE at least for a little while and see how much it impacts the game. We had Anarchy be the best weapon in the game for as long as we did, and then it got even more powerful with Breach and Clear from Season 14, and then it finally got slapped with the Nerf bat after the season was over. I don't see why this wouldn't hang around for at least the season. If it is going to get nerfed in PvE, it would likely happen after the season is over, sort of like what happened to Anarchy. Although with Anarchy, there are 2 differences. Number 1 is that Anarchy was one of the best weapons for much, much longer than 1 season and was being really oppressive to the power weapon slot. And 2 is that Anarchy had and currently has 0 PvP impact. So nerfing it in PvE wasn't going to affect PvP. Mythoclast does have PvP impact. Significant PvP impact right now, but it hasn't had a very long impact on PvE, and for the time being does not feel as oppressive in the energy slot, while we're still fresh in Season of the Lost, as Anarchy did on the power slot. So in terms of PvE, you know, it's definitely strong. It's definitely the weapon of the season, but I don't think I'm calling nerf just yet in the way that I thought Anarchy needed a good looking at after season of its dominance. Something that I think is a bit more likely to happen is that it'll receive some sort of PvP focused nerf that may or may not unfortunately impact its PvE performance in the form of a stability or range nerf. The weapon is just so effective from such a longer range than I feel is really expected of a weapon of this kind. And a nerf like this would probably show up in a mid-season weapon balance patch if it were to show up during the season. Ultimately, though, I don't think you need to worry about a super short-term nerf. Lately, they have been pretty good at letting PvE metas play out, not really touching too many things unless it's literally broken, handling things and nerfs and tweaks on new season launches, which is why I don't think they're really going to touch the damage. And I don't think Bungie is going to obliterate the weapon back down to where it was. That'd be an awful idea because the gun was, you know, it was a false promises, but it needs to be better than that. That's where I think we're at with Vex Mythoclast. If you have it, enjoy it. If you don't, try to get it as best as you can, because I'm not comfortable saying that Mythoclast is guaranteed to not be touched before the end of the season. I think it's pretty, like, I'll even say 50-50 odds depending on what Bungie ends up thinking. I think they're going to be gathering Crucible data, Trials data over the next few weeks and come to a conclusion after that. I'm not sure how much of a Trials menace this is going to be. It feels more like a Crucible quick play pub stomper kind of weapon compared to a Trials one, but, you know, who really knows? Yeah. Mythoclast. Whew. It's real good. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.